Hey, what's up, guys? This is John Boy Myers, still with my friends at the Nerd Herd. And if you want to do it right, collect what you like.
Yeah.
There we go.
Welcome back to the Team Nerd Herd podcast, where our best advice is if you want to do it right, collect what you like. Y'all, we made it. JR,
It's been a long time. It's been a long fucking time.
Yeah, your boy had
like
some
2
homework.
months.
Yeah, your boy had some homework and he wasn't reading, but we are in it today. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. We hope you guys are getting that barbecue and reminiscing of your families and the loved ones that pay us to be free here in this land, dude. That's it.
Yeah, much respect for anyone that has served in our time, past and present. I mean, I've come from a family of a lot of people that have served, and I'm very thankful for what they've done for this country. It's not the greatest country in the world, but it's trying to get there.
Definitely. And with that being said, you guys are on the third.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to erase that first episode, but the third one.
Oh, see, I thought we were erasing the copy episode.
Never. How dare you?
Do we erase DC, right?
No. DC is alive and kicking, bro.
Okay.
With that being said, let's go ahead and get into roll call. Let's go ahead and greet the group chat, and let's go ahead and give a synopsis about what we're going to bring to the table today. JR, hit them with it, brother. Introduce yourself. Let them know.
I'm Rogue's Law, your Daredevil lover, fan, big time fan for 20, 30 some odd years. Star Wars fan, Marvel fan, asshole of the Nerd Herd, and your grumpy old man of the Nerd Herd. What about you, Steve?
It's your boy Steve, aka Hip Hop Send Me _comics _collectibles. I'm your one troll scale collector, comic book lover, and chaser of all things nostalgic. And in this case, lover of JR's recommendation to what we are going to be talking about today, y'all. We are going to be bringing to you Frank Miller's Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, guys. That is what's going down. And with that being said, before we go ahead and jump right in, let's go ahead and greet the group chat. What's going on, my brother? Something wrong. Something right is happening right now, my brother. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Alonzo, Comics and Pops, my brother, dude. What's going on? I hope you're enjoying that Monday, brother. Go ahead and get that sushi, get that lounging. Astro Wizard is in the building. What's going on, my brother? Thank you very much for joining.
I've got an A-OK coming from him on Thursday. That's pretty epic. Nice little thing he sent me. Thank you, sir.
Astro Wizard's the truth, bro. I love me some Astro Wizard, my brother. And hermano, Eric the Phoenix is in the building, burning and embers like the Phoenix. Sam, what's going on, my brother? Sam, great person in the community and doesn't cut lines like your boy. Don't be like me. All right. With that being said, JR, I think we are ready to sink into this.
Okay. Well, let me set the stage. 1993. I've been collecting for about a year at this time. I'm working at a comic shop. I'm 14 years old, right around then. I knew who Daredevil was. I knew who Frank Miller was. I knew who John Romita Jr. was. Really wasn't into Daredevil at the time just because I kind of knew him as an X-Men fan. I was big into like Jim Lee, Wildcats, started getting into Valiant at the time. And someone pointed out, hey, pick this up. It's going to be good. So I picked up this book here. I picked up Man Without Fear, #1. This is actually my copy from 1993. I bought this off the stands. And I fell in love with Daredevil after this because it shows how well of a character. I mean, Frank Miller, one of the greatest writers that we have. I mean, the guy has brought us, Dark Knight Returns. He did a run on Daredevil. He did 300, Sin City. I mean, the guy is a god when it comes to writing. And I've always touted if you want to read Daredevil, if you want to see if you like him, pick up this miniseries. It's a dollar bin book every day, all day. It'll never go up in price. But it's one of those books you spend $5-10 at max, and I think everyone will end up loving this book. I recommended to Steve when we were on Operation IHOP.
Yeah, man. At Uncle Al's, man, I was putting books back, and you stopped me. You're like, you gave them back to me. You're all, keep these, and you're all, thank me later.
Yeah, and like you said, you've now read how many times you're saying over the?
Oh man, I've read it 4 times. I've read it prior to book binging. We got in this real big push of doing interviews, and JR and I were always talking about it. JR was always like, "Did you read the book? Did you read him?" And I told him, "Yeah." But coming back into the show and getting ready to kind of ramp up with the show, he could see the excitement in my face, and I had to thank him. JR is. Like JR's been saying, he's been collecting for such a long time, so it gives me a greater appreciation of what he's read. Any recommendations he gives to me, I always, I don't take it with a grain of salt. I that's the next thing I jump into, and I start to read it. Same with Alonzo and the crew. So, I'm really thankful to get a sense of this history too, because I had such a long hiatus of not reading books, and I hated reading. To the guests that just jumped in, Uncle Rudy, Brother Rudy, and then No Good hated reading. I hated it too, man. I felt like I was being punished, and as I'm older, man, I just can't get enough of it. And reading Daredevil, my God, Frank Miller, like you said, is a god.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the reason I like telling people to read this book is there's, as much as I love like Wolverine and other characters, there is no miniseries that wraps up their origin so succinctly, and we'll go over this during the next half an hour or so, that just you get kind of the whole nuts and bolts of it. And I mean, I can't think of anything that I've read where, like, maybe some of the Jeff Loeb stuff that he did with Batman, like Long Halloween, but still, it's hard to find something that's this concise. And you could tell the writer and the artist actually loved this character and loved the characters in general.
Definitely. Yeah. To echo your point, JR, and I mean, it totally shows in the artwork that John Romita Jr. did. And then Frank Miller just writing this epic origin of Daredevil. It kind of transports you to the streets of New York and Hell's Kitchen, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, geez Louise. Can we go ahead and give them a brief overview of issue 1?
So issue 1 is basically the story of Matt Murdock as a kid. It's all about what we all know, him getting the shit thrown on his eyes for saving another person's life. But what's really about also is his father. We find out why Matt doesn't fight as a child, why he would even risk his life to save another person's life. When a truck's coming about to hit that old person, a lot of people go, "Oh, fuck, that sucks." He dove out there and risked his own life and ended up losing his sight as a result of this. But we find out it's because of his father, and his father kind of drove into him because his father was a fighter and didn't know much. Like, hey, I want you to be better than me. I want you to, and this is something that rings true with all of us. Our parents always want us to be better than they were. And his father drilled into him, hey, I don't want you to fight. I want you to read books. I want you to become a lawyer, whatever. I mean, he ends up becoming a lawyer, but he wants him to not be a thug like he is. His mom's not in the picture. Though there is a scene where, and I don't know if you don't know about this one, but there's a nun that comes visits him when he's just starting to wake up after the accident. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be his mother.
Yeah. It kind of foreshadows that. And I think in Frank Miller's writing, he kind of describes her as the only thing that could calm Matt Murdock during this time, because he's frantic, like he's hearing different voices. All his senses are at a all-time high. And, he feels his mother's cross. and she is what eases him. There is a foreshadowing panel where you do see a tear in the woman's eye. So to me, that kind of strikes. That's his mother.
Yeah.
And to your point, oh, go ahead.
They actually didn't reveal that for about 20 years after the fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, knowing it now because you're watching Netflix, but if I had to read it, I probably kind of would have maybe put that into perspective. The one beautiful thing about, I mean, to echo your point, it really shows the origin of Matt, but it shows his father and falling on hard times, kind of being this in the middle of circumstance, to these mobsters. They have him as an errand boy. And it's not, his son knows that Matt knows what's going on. And Jack's just trying to do what's best for his son. That's why I think he really hammers it home to say, like, I don't want you to be like myself. I want you to be better. And you see every bit of Jack in Matt, though. I mean, he gets in the fights during school because they're ridiculing him, and he's standing up for himself. The only gruesome part about this, and the one thing to like really kind of bring Frank Miller's name to the mountaintops is that he's such a descriptive writer, man. I mean, everything he wrote in this miniseries, I mean, the first issue is just amazing. It like really sets up the story for you. You can really imagine being in New York, hearing the roar of the traffic and the alleyways, the stench of the alleyways, the grit of the city and the pain of the city. But Jack falls on hard times, man. They really try to have him roll out to throw a fight, and his son's in the stands. He's there. We know that Matt is being trained by Stick, like he's being introduced. There's so much character building in such a issue, but it's the pages, man. It takes its time in setting up everything. But poor Jack, does not throw the fight, gets taken to the alleyway and thinks of like he's going to get beat up, and it's going to be another day. But a Fixer has different,
different
answers
agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and takes them out.
Yeah, and that is like issue 1. I mean, just reading issue 1, I was just amazed. Like I wanted to call JR and go, dude, you were right, and then just go into issue 2. But I waited to read everything. So, Do you want me to open up issue 2, JR, or do you want to set
I could set it up if you want. Issue 2, now you're going to see a pattern is every issue spotlights a different character. So issue 1 was all about battling Jack Murdoch, and obviously you see the death of the father on the front. The second issue, even though it shows Elektra on the front, it was more about... Wasn't the second one about meeting her and
retribution or revenge? Because
because he goes back and basically he takes out everyone that destroyed his father. Mm-hmm. He single-handedly took him out. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like the start of, you see Matt Murdock in that issue. It's kind of his spotlight in that issue.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you know what I like when he beat the bricks off of Slade. I mean, he's this small, like I'm thinking he's still maybe within his teens, but he's fighting up this, this big thug just not overpowers him, is just looming over him. And Matt, cool as a cucumber, just takes his leg out and just mollywops him and just beats him to a bloody pulp. Takes his knee out, breaks his ribs, I mean, he's taken everybody out, and all that's left is Fixer, and Fixer's running down in a panic, and he calls his driver, I believe his name was Angelo. Yeah, Angelo. And like he gets, Matt Murdock is kicking the tar out of Slade, can hear the franticness and the beat of Fixer's heart, and he just takes off down the street, and Matt follows because he's being trained by Slade, or not Slade, Stick. So I mean, his focus and discipline and everything, his senses are so heightened. It's kind of like a ninja in some sort of sense, right?
So let's go back a little bit. First off, when you see there's a scene when Slade where he kicks his kneecap out, I felt that pain. I mean, it just shows. I'm not a fan of John Romita Jr., but you look at that shot and you're just like, that's like to a guy seeing another guy getting that shot. You're just like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah.
But now
Ouch.
to bring up Stick. Stick is a guy that, if you read the original Frank Miller run, you would know Stick is involved with another couple people called the Stone, and they're like the rivals of the Hand.
Mm-hmm.
In this, they kind of just talk about him being Matt's teacher and possibly Elektra's teacher at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But he helps him focus his powers, his senses. But he also at one point kind of says, "Fuck off if you're gonna stay around Elektra." But to go back to Angela or Fixer. I mean, you were saying Fixer ends up dying has a heart attack in the car, correct?
No, not in the car. He's running. The car crashes.
That's right.
Out goes Matt. Lands on top of his head. He's disoriented. He follows him down the subway, and at this alleyway, Fixer has a gun, and he just dies of a heart attack. Out of sheer shock and then you go back to Angelo, and this is I think a powerful scene that Frank Miller wrote out and John Romita Jr. kind of drew, was he's going back to finish the job, right, with Angelo. Angelo's the only one that's left, and he goes to this woman's lounge, this burlesque place or a strip club, and he's coming to get him, and he knocks a stripper out the window because the strippers are trying to defend Angelo. He's like really strong. Matt is. I mean, to show you guys later in later issues, it really describes how strong Matt is, because it's amazing. But in this panel, you see the stripper go out. You see Matt being guilty of murder, and he had his whole life he's being taught to study and to be a better person. He loses himself, sense of emotion, sense of discipline, and I think if you're a martial artist like Daredevil was, it kind of hits you really hard. And he's going through the mountaintops, through the rooftops to look and search for Stick, and he's left there to kind of mourn and to really weigh in on himself. I think that was a really big pivotal moment, and it shows a lot of character building on Daredevil, Matt. On Matt, because he's not Daredevil then; he's just Matt.
Oh yeah. Well, he felt like he lost his way. You could tell he realizes he let the vengeance side of him get to him.
Yeah.
Right, and he knows that you could tell that he regrets that, because his father would look at him and go, "Why the fuck did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You're better than that." And you could tell that. And by the end of that book, he kind of gave up on that lifestyle. He wasn't running around trying to take people out anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He actually decided to go to college and study law and do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up meeting Elektra.
Foggy too.
Foggy and Elektra.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets us to issue 3, I would say.
Yeah, the one thing that I liked about issue 2 is it left it. He meets Elektra. He can feel her on the rooftop, and his senses are tingling, and he wants to know who she is, and she kind of sets him up. She's very coy, very smart and cunning, and it's kind of like a huntress, playing with their prey. And Matt is just young still and kind of developing, but still, he's just amazing as far as his senses. I mean, he's just on top of it. So he's following her into the park. She's undressing. She's very, sensual. I mean, I think Elektra is a crazy character as well. And they leaves her, butt naked out in the park. But, the cops get word that a woman's been murdered, and they find Matt there and they arrest him and take him in. But they find out that he's blind, and he gets out. So, go ahead, JR.
And they even, so much to the point they show she's naked, they leave a pair of panties on a bush, and it's just like, really, you need to show us that too?
Yeah, man. You see Matt, the smirk in Matt's face too. You know, I know we
Yeah.
had before we go into issue 3, Matt, JR, let's go ahead and kind of greet who came in. I know Zen Multiverse, my brother Zen Multiverse is in the building. I know, let's see, we got Geek Driven Jeff. What's going on, brother? What's going on? Brother Rudy up in the building. What's cracking? Raging Cajun Comics, my boy JD just dropped a video, y'all. Go on his channel and check up. He got a haul. He has some stuff, and he talked about Pink's hot dogs, man. Now I'm getting hungry. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive right into issue 3. And issue 3 opens up with a spotlight on Elektra. I mean, this is a little more into Elektra and who she is. You know, how like the things that she's dealing with. Yeah, boom, yeah. She's really she's on the side of danger. You know, like she's very she's also a candidate in this Stone, you know, and I think she's the top candidate, and I think Matt is kind of like right under her, but she's kind of setting up the premise of meeting him. It shows a little bit of her taking out these thugs, on a New York City, like it shows her opening up to her driving after Matt's been bailed out, and Foggy's like, you're so lucky that happened. He can sense her. In comes a car. She's driving in. They jump in. The car goes, off wire, off the highway, and Matt's, like trying to find her, and he ends up finding her and where she lives, come to find out she comes from a rich family. She is an ace in everything that she does. And, and Matt ends up wanting to kind of find her and make her pay for what happened. He just, daredevil there, right? Lawyer there, making her, dealing the justice that she needs to be, that she needs to witness. And you see him, get in a tussle. You see a Doberman Pinscher dive at him, and he just kicks it at its throat. He kicks the henchman off. Elektra's playing music, and she's looking up, and they're shooting at him. He gets shot. And I think this is where Stone and Stick's master is talking to him and saying, why don't we we need to get more people. We need to get in the rankings. There's a war, coming up. And Stick is saying, well, Matt's let us down. He's nothing to us and whatnot. And you kind of see a sense of kind of like him not taking all that teaching and that Stick taught him, because he left a trail of blood, and that's not what Stick would want. Stick always said in silence, concentration, discipline.
Well, and to go back to that, while this is all going on with Matt breaking into the thing and kicking a henchman through like glass area and into a middle of party and stuff, Elektra's playing the piano, and she does not stop. She just as this is all going on, she's just like focused on it, and that I think is Frank Miller's kind of way of saying, hey, she's cool as a cucumber. She's not worried about this. She's putting on this persona for her father that she's this good little girl, when she's kind of almost like Dexter in the sense of she's got this urge inside her that she needs to let out once in a while. So much to the point that at one point, I mean, she ends up finding Matt. She finds out where he is, and breaks into his room while he's taking a shower, trying to take care of himself. Like, this guy's so hardcore. He's got shot. He is taking care of his wound in the shower after walking however far.
Oh my God.
And telling himself, hey, stay awake, don't pass out. And then she shows up in the shower because he's not paying attention. And Foggy shows up and is like, hey, I can't get in the room. The lock's on the door. And he's like, just give me a couple minutes. And it was like 20 minutes later, you see Elektra walk out, and the room is just trashed.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He's
a pimp. He's a Don Delanucci, man. He was sitting there like...
Yeah, it was definitely applied that. But then after that, she goes to basically, it looks like Times Square, like before it got cleaned up. And all she's got on is this mink stole that you could see, or mink coat, I should say. And she walks down this alley with like 7 guys, and they're threatening her, and she takes it off, and all she's got on is like a sports bra and a pair of panties. And she proceeds to beat the shit out of these guys. I mean, using a chain to break one of the guy's hands.
Mhm.
Just is brutal.
Oh yeah, the scenes and the panels are. I mean, they really express how good she is as a fighter. I mean, she knees the first guy right in the nuts, or no, kicks the guy in the nuts, and then knees him so hard that he breaks his vertebrae. Um, like she hits one guy in the nose that his nose goes right into his brain. To JR, like what JR was saying, she grabs this chick that's gonna shoot her and smashes her wrist into a bloody pulp. She, just disembowels, just beats the living tar out of these guys and kills them. There's a scene, she's still there. Oh my god, it's crazy. The other thing that I like about issue 3 is it really opens up to now we get an introduction of Kingpin, right?
Very little
Very
Kingpin
little.
at that, because we still have one more thing that is a key for Elektra is she ends up, her father dies during it at some point, and it doesn't flat out say that she killed him, but it sure as hell implies that she killed him.
Yeah.
And she doesn't seem like she has any remorse if she did kill him.
Yeah. She said the voices had told her and got to her, so you kind of find out that she's kind of a nut too. Like she's kind of dealing with these psychological issues. And she leaves Matt. She leaves Matt just high and dry. That's where you get to see that and get to know that she kills her father, and she tells Matt, "I can't lead you down this hell of mine, and it's on me." And she leaves Matt, and it's amazing. The very closing to this is you see a group of a family of mafia, talking about bringing in crack into the streets and getting children involved and just causing chaos in New York. And what I liked about it is the head of the mafia was like, "We're mafia and we're not monsters. We're not going to do this. We're not going to put it out. We're just going to go back to old rackets." And like you see him tell his group, like, "Get the hell out of here. We're not doing it." He stands on his soapbox, and you feel like what in the panel that you feel like he's talking to himself, but he's talking to somebody behind him. And this is where you see Kingpin.
First you see Monster Hands.
Oh my god!
Just like kneading his, like giving him a massage on the shoulders, and just slowly getting up to his neck as he's talking. He's like, I'm just so glad I have you, and all this stuff. This guy's saying to this other person, and then he just snaps.
Oh yeah!
It just flat out snaps the guy's neck, and you pan up and you see it's Kingpin.
Oh, it's crazy.
And that, I think there was one more little panel after that where he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna change things up a bit."
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's exactly how I saw that ending. I was just like, "Oh, he has plans to no, we are going to do what this is going to be done." I mean, there's millions of dollars involved, and he has an agenda. Amazing.
Yeah, he's just like, you're just too simple minded. We're gonna change the government, and this is kind of why I love Kingpin, is because of this next issue. Issue 4 is really a spotlighted Kingpin. I mean, it's funny because he's not that much in the issue, but that's who Kingpin is. Kingpin's all about, I'm going to get a bunch of people to do my shit for me. My hands are going to be clean. You come after me, I'm going to be like, shit, I didn't do shit. It was Steve that did it. It was Ian that did it. It was whoever else that did it. Wasn't me, as Shaggy would say. But you get Kingpin kind of sets up everything, and in this issue we find out that one of the things it seems like they're implying is they're doing child trafficking. Obviously they don't say it's flat out sex work, but it's pretty implied because they want a 12-year-old girl in this, which is fucking disgusting. But
yeah, I think she's 14. She's 14. I read
she's 14, but they said they wanted a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Okay.
So the whole issue is somebody else, not Kingpin, but somebody that's working on behalf of Kingpin, one of his lower lieutenants, basically said, "Hey, I'll pay you junkies this much money if you get me a 12-year-old girl by tonight. During this time, Matt has been hanging out at Hell's Kitchen in the old gym that he was at. He came at one point. He graduated from college, came back, and he was actually going to school
he got a
working
job
in Boston. Right,
Yeah.
he was working in Boston, but they had sent him to New York to work on a case. While in New York, he got back with Foggy, started doing stuff there, but he also met this girl. I don't remember her name. I just read the issue.
It's Mary.
Is it Mary?
Yeah.
And he ends up finding her as she's homeless, or she wants to make him believe that she's homeless, hanging out in the old gym. Her and him start working out together, and I'm not using it as a euphemism. They're actually working out, boxing, and stuff of that nature. And basically they become friends. He meets up with Foggy, though, and ends up kind of doing pro bono stuff for Foggy on the side, helping him with what he always wanted to do. Mary ends up getting seen there by these two junkies, and they're like, oh, she's easy pickings, we'll take her. And before Matt was flying home, he's going to stop there and see her, and he can't find her, and he finds her hat. And he figures out that someone stole her because she would never leave that hat anywhere. But to keep going the story, basically the junkies find out, oh, she's 14. So Kingpin's lieutenant is like, yeah, I can give you like half the money. And they're like, we want to get high though tonight, and that's not enough money.
Yeah. So they take matters into their own hands, and they call the girl's family for ransom to try to get money. And that gets back to Kingpin, who gets back to the lieutenant. The lieutenant is going to finish jobs. He's going to whack those crack addicts that took Mary, and then he's going to kind of tie up loose ends. He kills the person that's going to pay him half of that. And in that kind of transition, Matt is already on the case. He senses everything. He almost gets shot. No, he does get shot.
They also, so one of the crackheads snitches on them. Says like, hey, this is because the boyfriend goes, well, what we can do is we can ransom the kid off and then also get paid by Kingpin's people. And she's scared of Kingpin. She's like, no, I'm not. She tells him fine, but she snitches him out. And that's when the father of Mary comes around and is being led on a chase of dropping off the money. And that's where Matt kind of follows them and ends up getting shot again. But you want to keep going, Steve, or?
Well, so yeah, in this transition, he's taking the henchman's taking Mary to somewhere else, and he's at gunpoint. He goes and he has a gun right at her. What we do see is that Matt, before even Matt is on the trail, he goes back to the gym, finds the billy club that he took from the cop. Shots are being fired at him, and he's hitting the shots with the bullets.
To go back to that billy club real quick, we didn't mention earlier, the billy club he stole as a kid before he lost his eyesight, and he hid it in his father's gym.
Yeah, it was in the first issue because he's a mischievous child and whatnot. But he's smashing the bullets. He hits him the one bullet right, and it goes flying at him right between the eyes. That's the end of that sounds like that panel. I mean, was intense. It shows that like he's kind of like falling into the Daredevil, and I think this is where the issue where they do see how strong he is, because they find him, they arrest him, and it takes a whole bunch of cops to like bring him down and put him in the car. They're like, this guy is strong, and it's just this was an amazing issue too, because it really kind of panned out onto what Kingpin's plans were in the beginning of rolling out what they kind of wanted to do in the beginning. Like roll out the drugs, children trafficking, and everything like
The
of that
cops.
nature. The cops being paid off, in some sort of sense as well, down to those crack addicts, and then down to Matt kind of falling into his own and being kind of setting up to Daredevil, which would lead us into issue 5, right?
Well, I'm going to go back a couple little things.
Sure.
One thing, when he did storm the compound to try to get her back, he went through and knocked out, like disabled all the cars, like went in and ripped out something to make it so none of them worked.
Yeah.
Broke a bunch of lights on the outside so they couldn't see him. We also see, along with the Billy Club, he dons the black outfit, which I believe is the first time he actually wore the black costume in comics. There's also a scene where, kind of a sad scene, where they've got all the kids in little rooms by themselves, and they're all dressed up nicely, and they mention that they start singing. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like they know they're fucked, but they're all kind of bonding together at that time. He also blows up the dock that they use to smuggle the kids out on. But yeah, he gets the cops. He gets away from everyone, but then the cops stop him, and he ends up getting away from the cops still. They put him in the back of the squad car, which I think is part of 5. And he ends up getting out of the cuffs, getting them out of the car, and getting the cuffs off, and starts driving the car, chasing after Mary and the person that's got Mary. And this is kind of like the issue where, like I said, number 5, where they really introduce Daredevil as who we know him as in this issue. In this issue, we start to see little things that he does, like the billy clubs he starts using. He has his weapons and everything. But he's coming after the guy that's trying to kill Mary. And he knocks a bullet back using the nightstick and gets him right between the eyes. Breaks his sunglasses. Beautiful shot. What else you got, Steve, there?
It gets back to Kingpin, that his lieutenant is dead. I got ahead of myself. You're right, Jared. That was issue 5. My bad. But it gets back to Kingpin, and Kingpin is like, it's in his mind. He's like, he's not devastated that he lost, but he's devastated in some sort of sense that he's lost a lot of people. He's lost a lot of money due to one person, and he wants to figure out who that person is. Matt losing his job in Boston, it kind of goes into somewhat of a state of mind where he's laughing, and he just kind of says, like, this is my home. I'm back in Hell's Kitchen. I'm going to stay here. If we went back to issue 4, the other good thing is it kind of brought back Matt to like a homecoming and reminiscent. Very, very panels that were very reminiscent of his past and whatnot. So that's where it comes into issue 5, where he's saying, like, this is my home. I'm coming home.
Let me answer this real quick.
Sure.
Man Without Fear, without a doubt, over Shadowland. Shadowland never fit for him. And if they switch it out to Luke Cage like they're doing on the show, I think Cage is a better fit for Shadowland. Just to explain, Shadowland was basically Daredevil became the Kingpin of Hell's Kitchen. He took control of Hell's Kitchen and did everything, but it kind of screwed him over in the end. He started becoming more evil and everything.
Oh,
but we'll get back to that. Yeah.
Oh, that's another one. So Matt's homecoming. He's back home. This is where he is supposed to be. He touches base with Foggy. Foggy's father's going to lend him money so that they can open their own practice. And the cool part is they're going over names. Foggy tells them heads or tails. We'll pick, either Murdoch and Nelson or Nelson and Murdoch. And Daredevil says, like tails. And you see in a panel a hand catching the coin and its stick. And it basically kind of really sets the tone for Matt's heart almost jumping out of his chest, but him staying cool. And you see Stick walk by and say, like, don't get so cocky, kid. Like the quarter turned tails, and basically to watch his back, and like the final
Stay grounded.
yeah, stay grounded and watch your back. The final panels show cityscape, and you see Daredevil inherit his new costume, and I think this is just awesome. If I could share it here.
Well, the great thing also, I don't know if you notice,
Bam.
starting from each one of them, it's a different iteration of his costume.
Yeah.
So you got the very first one, it's just yellow costume, and then a version was red, and as the red one's changed over the years. To answer something Wong's question, I have read Daredevil Born Again, and I will probably get Steve to read that because that is probably the greatest Daredevil story ever written. But I need to have him have some background first before getting into that. Because that's a longer story and a little more. You need to know some of the stuff going on beforehand to get into that one. But like what I say, I love about this is at the end of it, you understand who Matt Murdock is. He's a lawyer. He's a defender of the people. His heart is in Hell's Kitchen. You understand that Daredevil is also the same way, that they're very much the same person. And you understand that like every one of the characters was really defined.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kingpin, you understand Kingpin is only out there for himself. That's all he gives a shit about. Everyone else is just a chess piece for him. Elektra is really she loves Matt, but at the same time, she knows that being too close to Matt for too long is not good for her or for him.
She's a wild horse.
And he's got a legacy of dating women that are out there. That I mean, he's been with Natasha for a while, the Black Widow. He's dated Karen Page. He's dated Elektra. He's dated, I believe, for a little while, Typhoid Mary. He even was with a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually dating her alter ego. Typhoid Mary has a split personality, where half the time she's Typhoid Mary and she's a fucking schizo pyrokinetic. Half the time she's this like little field mouse of a person. So he's always dealt with the devil on both sides. But as Geek Driven said, also really the Netflix series was kind of a condensed version of the show of Born Again.
Yeah, and also shout out to Nowhere Bound, but he also highlighted your favorite character, JR. He was talking about your man Kingpin and said Kingpin is a street villain of the future of the MCU. Hope they get Vincent D'Onofrio to keep it going. I think they will, man.
Yeah.
When I think Kingpin, it's just him now. I mean, he is just vicious, Sid Vicious, and just heartless, man. But there's a piece into his madness in some sort of sense. It's like we were talking about this. We said behind stage, I feel that Daredevil and Kingpin are like the yin and yang to each other, because Daredevil fights his anger. He has discipline, and Kingpin, although he's the chessboard, controller, he also, it just kind of falls into his rage, and he pays no mistakes. He's just like, let's get it done. I don't care, cutthroat. And you have Matt just kind of fighting that urge. But man, dude, this was an awesome read, JR. I want to thank you so much for recommending this to me, because again, like I got to see the history of these books. I'm reading all these moderns, but to go backwards and to get a take of such an amazing story in what Frank Miller read, I mean, it just was a real treat, man. Thank you.
And it's nice to be able to read something like that that's self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to you can build on it now. Like you can read Born Again, you can read Fall from Grace, some of the other stuff, but you really kind of need the foundation for it. This is kind of your jumping off spot. I was going to say also, as far as the show goes, if you ever want to see like the heart of and why I think Vincent D'Onofrio is the only person that ever should play Kingpin ever again, is watch, I believe it's called the White Rabbit episode, where he's talking about the piece of artwork that is all white and it's got some texture on it and stuff. But just that scene of him talking about the White Rabbit in a snowstorm and not understanding, like it's hard to describe it. If you watch it, I personally relate to it because sometimes there's that rage and you just can't focus it and you have no control over it, but you know it's there. If you watch that, you'll understand it. That's what makes him such a great character. He's not your Doctor Doom. He's not going to kick everyone's ass, but he's definitely going to be one of those characters that you're going to be like, yeah, I didn't see him coming.
Mm-hmm.
And as Rudy says, please hit the like and subscribe, guys.
Definitely.
Please do that.
Guys. Hit those notification bells, be notified. We are going to continue book binging. I know it's been a long time, but JR and I will be reading some more series. We'll be kind of nailing those down as we go along. I know, JR, you want to talk to what you got in the works as well before we kind of head out?
I'll be taping this week I got a new show coming. I haven't released the title of it yet. Until I've got, till I got sealed up. But it's going to be a Star Wars like origins type story. Basically talking about your connection to the Force. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm a Jedi and all this bullshit, but just kind of like, where were you what's the first movie you saw the Star Wars? How has it affected your life? That type of stuff. And so it's kind of like more introspective in that, not, oh, what's the most expensive toy you have? So we're gonna be doing that. I'm hoping I've got a great lineup coming up. I've got Morpheus is gonna do one. I got Brandon from Comic Book Kings is doing one. I've got Ian's gonna do one.
You got Sam.
I got Sam gonna do one. I've got Melissa Moonlit is gonna be doing one.
Yeah, Melissa to Michelle, boy.
Michelle, sorry. She'll kill me later. Can't edit that, right, huh?
No, we're live, brother. We're live.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
It's okay. She's an old hag. She'll understand.
How dare you, dude?
No. That's a joke. Don't worry. That I won't get in trouble for. Anyways, eventually I'd like to try to get someone like from the 501st. People like that. That's not necessarily in our area, but people that really kind of support Star Wars and show we're not just toxic fans anymore.
Bam. Be ready, y'all. Be ready, because I'm excited for JR. As soon as he brought the idea to us, we were like, dude, go forward with it.
Yeah.
And we are ready, dude. So we are ready. We also got something in the works, too. We will be going over with our boy Alonzo, Comic and Pops. We're going to be reviewing The Warrior. That's going to be coming up soon. You got E, with that cell phone balling. You got him working. You got that new segment we just dropped. So be on the lookout for that, guys. The bottom half. Definitely check those out. Definitely check those sleepers. We got some more ideas in the works as far as interviews, and we're going to be going forward, guys. We got some more dropping the mic. Definitely hit those likes, hit those subscribes, comment down below. Tell us what series that you would want us to read and kind of bring it up to you guys right here. We're willing to do it, and we're also willing to bring our community back into the show to debate and to go over these stories with us because we're super excited. I know I am.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to get Eric on here to do an X-Men story with us. Just got to find the right X-Men story for the group.
Oh, yeah, dude. I cannot wait for that. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take you out Team Nerd Herd style on this segment. If you want to do it right, we'd read what you like, y'all.
Yeah. Give me a sec.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, I know. She's gonna kill me later. I understand. There we go.